In this video, we're going to be talking about all the pros and cons and everything that you need to know about mortgage forbearance. Hi, this is Brandie with the Mathison-Klein Group at Keller Williams Realty, and today we're going to be talking with Jennifer Micklos on what is a mortgage forbearance. So Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So Jen, I know that you come with years of experience. You are definitely recognized as the top 1% in the mortgage industry nationwide. And so we wanted to really just kind of pick your brain a little bit and answer some questions that are taking place right now. We know that the government just passed the CARES Act, which basically states that homeowners don't have to make their mortgage payment for up to 12 months if they, are in need of that financial assistance. And just wanted to really kind of ask you, what does that mean? What is mortgage forbearance?
Thanks for that introduction, by the way. And I have definitely been around the mortgage business for a long time, and I've seen lots of changes, lots of things through the 2008 crash, and seen, different times when we've had hurricanes and people have been granted forbearances on their mortgages during that time as well. And this is definitely something different than we've seen before. The federal government coming out and basically saying that the people can take a break essentially from their mortgage or pause on their mortgage. It sounds great. It sounds wonderful, but there are definitely some consequences that people need to be aware of, and they need to know what all of the details of a mortgage forbearance will be. So a forbearance really just says that you can stop making your payment for a defined period of time where you are not making the payments on your loan. The repayment of those missed payments is determined by the actual mortgage company who holds your loan, the servicing company where you make your payments to every month. And so it's really, really important that clients are finding out, or homeowners are finding out exactly what the details are with their specific servicing company. Some of them, we're hearing, are saying, sure, take a pause on your mortgage, but at the end of the 3 or 6 or 12-month period, you owe us all of those back payments. Well, that's not helping anyone who's currently struggling to make their payments on their mortgage and on other bills and maybe out of work. And so they're not exactly amassing all of these funds that they'll be able to repay that lump sum of money at the time that forbearance period is over.
Right, because otherwise they would be making their payments each month anyways.
And so the purpose of not making your mortgage payment is to be able to allocate those funds somewhere else, right? To be able to make sure that you're paying your car payments and your credit cards and those other bills, which normally would take second precedence to your mortgage. And so if you have to repay those in a short period of time, then it's not helping you, because that you're not going to have the cash 6 months from now if you don't have it now.
Right.
So number one is, if anyone is considering a forbearance at all, is to talk to your lender specifically and get specific details. I've seen a lot of people who've gone online, and a lot of the lenders are tough to get in touch with right now because they're very busy with all of these requests. And so they're making it easy for someone to click, find out about forbearance information.
Mm-hmm.
They get an email that says, congratulations, you've been granted a forbearance of 6 months, but they don't know the details. They don't know what the terms of that repayment will be. Mm-hmm. Because it's not taking a break on the interest that's accruing on the loan. It's not taking a break on the taxes and the insurance that you're making payments on each month when you make your mortgage payment. And when the tax bill comes due in November, whether you've made your payments for the last 6 months or not, the mortgage company is still going to pay that. So those are all things that are accruing and all money that is being owed to your mortgage company. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them will make the payments, will add those payments, those missed payments, onto the balance of the loan, so that you pay that when you repay the loan or when you sell the home later. So, in that case, it is helpful, and it may be helpful for some people who need it to be able to defer those payments to a later period of time and not have to come up with a big lump sum in the near future. But I don't know if that's the majority.
It sounds to me like a lot of lenders are just granting the forbearance if somebody just even calls.
Right.
And is there any paperwork that they need to sign or review or anything of that nature that helps them to be able to understand what that exactly means for them with that particular mortgage lender?
So two things about your question. One is, yes, there's so much demand for these and the government, and they're required to grant them, that they are just granting them to whomever's applying. That's one of the things that's different about this time when we're seeing mortgage forbearances than in other times in the past. In the past, you've had to prove that you had a hardship, that you lost a job, and that your income has been affected. And that's not the case right now. Right now, it's kind of just on the honor system if you need the help with the forbearance. So that's the upfront part of the application. But once they're granted, I've seen one client who actually sent me over a copy of the forbearance agreement that they were required to sign. And it does state that the payments will be due at the end of the 4-month forbearance period unless they agree on a modification of their mortgage, which they can apply for during this forbearance process. But what happens if they get to the end of that 4-month period and they have not been approved for any other type of program? Those 4 months payments, again, are due. And so
then at that point, if they didn't have the money to pay those 4 months in one lump sum, and they didn't have the option to do something else with the lender, would the lender then be moving forward with maybe a potential foreclosure?
Potentially, or maybe reporting them as late to the credit bureaus at that point. That part will depend on what the federal government allows them to do as well. But at some point, the stay on foreclosures will be lifted, and banks will be able to foreclose if people are not making their mortgage payments after an extended period of time. So if the mortgage servicer complies and gives them a forbearance, and then at the end of the forbearance period, people still aren't able to make their mortgage payments, they won't have any other choice but to proceed with some foreclosure proceedings or something like that.
Right. So, so what are some of the pros and some of the cons? I mean, obviously we've kind of talked about some of the cons about that. What are some of the pros that the mortgage forbearance aspects has for homeowners right now? Because right now, the way that I'm looking at it is it's not really any kind of benefit.
Right, I agree. And unfortunately, it's a necessary thing for people who need it. There are some people who cannot make their mortgage payments and who cannot afford to pay a multitude of other bills, who are not employed. And so the fact that they can give them some grace to be able to have some time to look for employment, get back to work, that's all positive stuff, and it's stuff that we need. But we also have a lot of people who are thinking, well, I mean, if I could just save that mortgage payment this month and not pay it, who knows where we're going to be 2 or 3 months from now. Even though I'm still employed and I'm still getting paid, the economy might be looking different 2 months from now. Maybe I want to hold on to my cash. That's not the person who should be applying for this forbearance and who should be taking advantage of it. The other thing is that people just need to be so clear on what the expectations will be for them to repay it, and consider possibly deferring other bills first. So if your mortgage says that you're going to have to repay this money in 6 months or 12 months, then maybe talk to your car payment company first, or talk to other bills. Start looking at other ways to consolidate your bills, to look for ways to eliminate expenses, to cut out things, to be able to continue to make the mortgage payment if you can, in lieu of doing the forbearance on the mortgage, first.
Right. That's a very good suggestion. So if a homeowner is doing a forbearance, how is that affecting their credit right now?
So it still remains to be seen how it's going to show up on their credit. But right now, the mortgage companies cannot report negative information to the credit bureaus. So they can't say this is behind and report late payments to the credit bureaus. So they're just not reporting a current payment. It's kind of like a null for that month's payment. What I've seen so far are some of the mortgages will list mortgage currently in forbearance. And so there's no payment being made. That's all that's noted on the credit. So it shouldn't hurt somebody's credit. It shouldn't, typically one late payment can impact someone's credit score 100 points.
Wow.
You won't see that during this time with the mortgage because they're not reporting them as late payments.
Okay.
But there are other things to consider and other ramifications of how it may impact credit. When you're applying for a forbearance, you're basically telling your mortgage company that you're having difficulty making your payments. So one example that I've been talking about this week especially is sellers. So let's say a seller has their home listed for sale. They know that when they sell their home, they're going to pay off the mortgage that they owe, whatever that balance may be. So if the balance is higher in a couple of months because they didn't make their mortgage payment, many of them may say, that's okay. I'd rather take the extra cash I have right now, use it to fix up my home, to do some those repairs that I needed to do to make it ready to sell. And so, sounds like a good idea in theory, except that we don't know yet what all of the ramifications will be for someone like that who then goes to apply for a mortgage, say 2-3 months from now. Right, we may look at those and say that you were in a mortgage forbearance, you had a hardship with your mortgage, you now need to make 12 months of on-time payments on your housing before we'll offer you a mortgage again. So we're still waiting for guidelines and guidance from the agencies, from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and FHA, the government, the entities that kind of give us the guidelines of how to write new mortgages. We're waiting for them to tell us how they want to handle those situations, but we need to be prepared, and we need to be warning people that that could be a side effect of taking a forbearance now, that it could keep you from being able to qualify for either a new purchase or a refinance. And right now, the way mortgage interest rates are, you don't want to eliminate yourself from being able to do a refinance in the future.
Right. And what I hear you saying is that it's still too early in the game to be able to tell, if there is a forbearance that's showing on your credit, how long that forbearance needs to be removed in order for them to be able to qualify for a new mortgage. Is that correct?
Right. That is correct. Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What are some other things that maybe we should be aware of as we're navigating through a lot of these things? We've never experienced anything like this before. One of the other things too that I had heard you mention in another conversation was mortgage deferment. Is that something that we should be asking for in place of a forbearance, or is there a difference?
It's really kind of the same thing. It just depends on what that servicer is offering in terms of this period of break time and how those funds will be reallocated or repaid at the end of that period. So the biggest thing that I can say, the most important, I think, message is that you need to know exactly what you're getting into before signing up for it. And if you can avoid doing the forbearance, avoid it. If you can make your mortgage payment, if you're still employed, continue making your mortgage payment as normal, unless you absolutely have to. And then if you have to, make sure that you're finding out exactly what those terms are to repay the loan, or to repay this period of time that's been set aside.
Very good. Very good. So it's definitely can be a relief for some people that are definitely in financial need, to have that respite and that grace. And if you can make your payment, definitely make your payment. I think I heard yesterday, right now, 6% of homeowners that have mortgages are in forbearance right now. And so I'm sure that number is going to continue to rise, but I felt that it was important just to be able to educate, people so that they know kind of what questions to ask and what they need to be aware of if they are doing it.
Right. And we're actually seeing companies that are even putting these loans into forbearance just because someone called and inquired about it. And so somebody may have just called, or may have clicked on something online and said, I want to get some more information. And then they're granted this forbearance, and it's going to now show up on their credit as a forbearance. That we still don't know how we're going to handle those situations either. And I assume that as a mortgage company, we'll look at their payment history. And if someone, even though they were granted forbearance, continued to make their payments, then, we'll take that into consideration, I would assume. But the other thing is if somebody who is in need applies for a forbearance and the company does offer them something like a 3-month break, where then all of the payments are due that 4th month. But, a lot of times I'll hear this caveat of, but you can apply for a modification for a different type of program while going through the forbearance period. Well, in that case, if it's something that you need to do and you feel like that's something that is really important, go through, you can sign up for the forbearance. If possible, continue making your payments so that you don't have a big lump sum that comes due in the 4th month, but apply for those other options and see what other options might be out there. Just don't stop making your payment until you know what those other options are and if it's going to be beneficial for you.
That's great advice.
Well,
Jen, we are so, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm always happy to answer any questions or to be a sounding board. If somebody has questions about what they should do or what they're hearing from their mortgage company or what they received from their mortgage company, if they want to give me a call, I'm happy to talk with them and just kind of help them explore it.
That would be great.
With any assistance there.
And so just before we go real quick, what are your thoughts as far as like the pulse on the market? And I know interest rates are still at historical lows right now. So what is your advice to someone that might be considering purchasing a home right now at this time?
You know, I actually think that right now is still a very good time to be in the market and to be purchasing. And we have actually a lot of activity still happening. We're receiving contracts every single day for new homes. One of the positives for home buyers out there is that there are less people competing for the same homes that they're looking at. Before this started, we had a very big shortage of inventory in the market, and you know that that's still the case, that there are not as many homes out available, that there are buyers who want to purchase them. And, you know, we were expecting that going into this whole year, a pretty significant shortage. And so when we do come out of this and we have people entering the market again, that competition for those homes will be greater. So I think getting in now and shopping now before the competition goes up, and while interest rates are still super low, that is so impactful for people's affordability. So, you know, we've talked about this before, and I won't get too much into the details, but a 1% change in interest rate can change someone's buying power by 10%.
That's
so that's
huge.
A big difference. Yeah. And price home that somebody might be looking for.
Definitely. So even if, you know, some people are saying, well, I'm waiting for values to come down. Even if the values come down, they would have to come down 10% in order for it to make sense if the interest rates go up while the values are continuing to go down.
Right. So. And, you know, I know a lot of people have said that to me too. They're thinking that we're going to have a crash and that we're going to see this bubble burst and we're, you know, all of these things. And a lot of times they allude to that it looks very similar to what happened in 2008. But in 2008, we had a lot of properties that were overvalued. They weren't fairly, there was no fair evaluation of those homes. And so the property values dropped because they were so far out of the market and because of the other lending conditions. In this case, we know that I think a statistic I recently read was that 50% of the homes in America have about 50% equity in them. I mean, we have a lot of equity. Property values have increased significantly over the last several years, but at a steady and sustainable pace, not at a pace that's outpacing affordability or, you know, where the market should be conservatively. Right. So, you know, with the shortage of homes that are out there, I don't see us seeing a big decline in prices at all, if any.
I would agree with that statement. So, well, very good. Jen, thank you so much for your time today. We so greatly appreciate it. And if you guys want to reach out to Jen with any mortgage questions, please feel free to give her a call. I've got the contact information listed there. And just thank you so much for watching today. We so greatly appreciate it. And you guys take care.